Hello everyone and welcome back to another video where today we are going to be covering a Reddit leak, but specifically one that you guys asked me to cover that won't be particularly surprising if you've been following this channel and you've been following the chatter around leaks online for Doctor Who, but it basically goes over the alternate endings for Doctor Who Season 2's finale, The Reality War. Now apparently there are currently two alternate endings for the episode that exist. So we're going to be going over them. I'm going to be telling you which one I think is most likely, as well as my thoughts for each one. Whatever your thoughts are, drop them down in the comments below, and be sure to like the video if you enjoy, subscribe if you're new, that would be greatly appreciated. We're trying to get 30,000 subscribers, and we are so close to 28,000 now, so any support would be greatly appreciated. But let's dive right in. So this is by Fluid Bell over on the Doctor Who News subreddit. Doctor Who finale report / rumour, there are currently two alternate endings. After compiling all the leaks, researching the validity of the source of each leak, and cross-checking it with reliable sources on Gallifrey Base and the Doctor Who League Discord, I and a few others are now sure that 2, or maybe 3, endings of the Season 2 finale currently exist following reshoots in February, and everyone seems to know anything is still not 100% sure which way it will go. Option A, brackets, most likely. The reality war ends with the 15th Doctor regenerating into a, quote, female and familiar 16th Doctor, who will be, more than likely, played by Billie Piper. For reference, here is Andrew's previous description of the actress playing the 16th Doctor, quote, yes, but I don't think the casting of 16 indicates or confirms the renewal for Season 3 with 16 in it. It seems more like a stunt casting to round off RTD2 and kind of wrap up the New Who era by bringing it full circle. Option B, wouldn't be surprised. The reality war ends with the 15th Doctor regenerating before the screen fades to black, leaving the regeneration as open-ended. Option C, unlikely, and of course there is always the option that Ncuti doesn't regenerate at all, but given the accuracy of previous leaks, I have my doubts this one will happen. I've seen a few other reports / rumours, including speculation from Andrew, that up until a month or so ago the BBC was still undecided on what ending out of option A and B they wanted to use. So it'll be really interesting to see what they go with. But at the moment, it seems the leaker consensus is that they have chosen to go with option A, Billie Piper at 16, especially since the Billie stuff came from Andrew, and he has gotten everything right so far. Okay, so I'm going to break this down because it's very interesting. So it seems like of the three options, at least according to this person, option A is the most likely, and this is because the leaker, who goes by the name of Andrew, who's leaked that, has pretty much gotten everything else right, including the Midnight Entity's return, the fan scene in Lux, and a couple of other things. That doesn't mean it's 100% guaranteed, but it is the one with the most backing. What's interesting, though, is that according to this quote from Andrew, he says that it doesn't necessarily indicate nor confirm a Season 3 with Billie Piper as the 16th Doctor, more that it's a stunt cast that could lead to more, or could act as a wrap-up to the RTD2 era and the revival as a whole. I think that this would be terrible. I think that, frankly, if the Doctor becomes Billie Piper, if the Doctor takes on that face, and then that's the end of the show, that's such a weird thing to end on. And I think if you are to do that, which, by the way, I'm planning on doing a video, if that does come true, on why I'm not a fan of the idea of Billie Piper as the 16th Doctor, just from a conceptual level. I think the worst thing you could do would be just to have it be a gimmick cliffhanger that may or may not ever get resolved. I think that would be an awful thing to do. And maybe they would be using it as leverage to get, potential future seasons, either with Disney or another backer, but honestly, I don't know. I just think making the Doctor entirely based around, oh yeah, we're just going to have this as like a thing, is just weird. Option B, the reality war ending with 15 regenerating before the screen fades to black, leaving the regeneration open-ended. This one, to me, doesn't seem that unlikely. I mean, we had a very similar thing prior to Russell T Davies' initial return with Power of the Doctor, where, if you don't know, the original script for that episode just ends with it fading to black as the 13th Doctor regenerates, because there wasn't a planned successor post Power of the Doctor. And that to me feels more realistic than option A. I know that I said that option A is more likely because of who it's from, but I feel like option B makes more sense. You leave it open for a new actor to take over, whether in a year from now or whatever. To me, that makes way more sense. It's interesting that, according to this, up to a month ago, the BBC weren't sure whether to go with the first or second ending, indicating that there is some uncertainty about how we're going to end this. I mean, I do think it's interesting that Billie Piper and David Tennant will be appearing on the Unleashed next week as part of the 20th anniversary celebrations for it, and it would feel kind of bizarre if Billie Piper was in that and then it just wasn't acknowledged in the Unleashed a week after that appears. I don't know, as much as the female and familiar leak does have validity, I'm still uncertain about it being Billie Piper. It just seems too outlandish. I mean, maybe that's just because I don't want it to be true, but I don't know. Billie Piper's a phenomenal actress, but man, I just think that's, a bridge too far, even for me. Option C, and then unlikely, and of course, there is the option that Ncuti doesn't regenerate at all, but given the accuracy of previous leaks, I have my doubts this one will happen. I was fairly confident that this one wouldn't happen up until yesterday, where I covered that image of what was seemingly a final scene of the reality war with the Doctor and Belinda dancing together at the end, very happy. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that the Doctor couldn't go and regenerate after that, but it just doesn't seem like the tone a final episode, final appearance, final moment would have for the Doctor. I guess you could argue that the very first scene of 15 is him dancing in a nightclub, at least, outside of the giggle, so wrapping it up with him at a party maybe makes sense, but I don't know. I just don't really understand where a regeneration would fit in there, unless that has got nothing to do with the ending and it's more of a flashback. But again, I don't know when 15 and Belinda would have done that, in the course of this series. So I'm still pretty sure that it probably won't be option C, but I'm leaving that more open than I was because of that leak that happened recently. I guess the exciting thing is, with multiple potential endings being speculated, it's kind of fascinating to have no idea how this episode's going to end. This could be our first surprise regeneration. Although I still do think if you want to get viewers in, you would announce that beforehand. So I'm still fairly unconfident. I get that they've wanted to do a surprise regeneration for a while. Russell T Davies said that that was an original thing he wanted to do back with Christopher Eccleston, but I just think with the show in its current state, would it not make sense to advertise a regeneration if there was going to be one? I don't know. There were reshoots in February, which maybe adds credence to it, but there were also reshoots for Robot Revolution much later on, and that didn't necessarily lead to a regeneration. Same goes for the Church on Ruby Road as well. So, I don't know. I'm kind of 50-50 on this. I think either Ncuti Gatwa is going to stay, or it's going to be the female and familiar rumour that we've been hearing. But let me know down in the comments below what you guys think. If you did enjoy this video, be sure to give it a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you later.